Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Radiant Earpiece. This is a coaching series that we've started up at SkillCapped, where we set up Jaden, one of our Radiant coaches, with SkillCapped members in an attempt to give them live coaching and help them win more games. Just a reminder that we take all of the matches from these videos and upload the full session to the website for your viewing, so if you want to check out all of Jaden's commentary throughout this game, as well as the post-game discussion that we all have, those are available on the website. Returning for this week's episode is going to be Kirby from the last episode. He's currently in Silver 1 at the time of this recording. His peak rank was Silver 2, and our goal is to help Kirby push his way into Gold over the next act if possible. In the last episode, you'll notice that he's actually playing Killjoy, but this time around he's going to be playing KO, which is a different feel. I'm actually pretty proud about how the first round turns out though, and I want you guys to watch this and get a feel for why I'm so happy about it.
Oh, crap.
You should push up with Omen. I think you could fall back and go A main and go push onto A site. You guys killed the inside.
Shoot.
Killjoy might be on site. Oh no, Killjoy is in heaven. So you also have a flash. You might have to look for a pick in heaven. You'll flash yourself and try to fight someone in heaven. Nice, good job. Play for your life now. Play towards your Reyna side. Yeah, play with your Reyna. Hopefully she could. Nice, good job.
Good trade.
If you didn't pick it up, the reason I was happy with what happened wasn't because of Kirby's movements or his crosshair placement. He still very much seems a little nervous when he plays, and we'd love to loosen that up a bit. What I'm happy about, and you'll hear it in Jaden's instructions through the round, is that when your team is behind in numbers, you need to be looking for picks in rounds like this. It was a 2v3 at this point in the round, and his Reyna was actually flanking ramps. But this flank doesn't get more than one kill if Kirby doesn't take first contact. If Kirby doesn't do this flash play right here, his Reyna will likely get one kill and then get traded out. But because Kirby takes first contact, he's able to pick up a kill of his own, and then his Reyna actually gets a kill of her own. This one play literally saved the round for them. And it doesn't seem that way when Kirby only comes up with one kill in the round, but I genuinely mean it when I say that what he did right here saved the round. Jaden also later in the round instructs him to play closer with the Reyna in heaven. Unfortunately, Reyna doesn't really play with him in a position where she can play off him all that well, but in the end, they do get the trade onto Killjoy, and although there were some things that I'd fix earlier in the round, overall this round played out pretty well and I was happy with it. Let's move on to one of the rounds where I started to notice another habit that Kirby seems to have throughout the game though. And I didn't notice this as much in the Killjoy game from the last episode, but in this game specifically, it seems like he very much has a tendency to hang pretty far behind his team, and at times this can result in him literally doing nothing for portions of the round. This is something I always try to task lower ranked players with, but always try to ask yourself, what is my purpose right now? And if you can't come up with a purpose for your position, it's probably a bad spot. This sort of ties into what Jaden is talking about at the start of the round.
So usually since you're a supporting character, you could try to, a good way to cover your duelists, because like they're probably entering, right? Try to look at areas where they're not looking at. So like let's say they're going left side of the map, right? You could try to look at right side to kind of cover for them, because you're much farther back.
Okay.
Alright, I know that Kirby was taking in what Jaden was telling him at the time, but notice where he currently is positioned right now. He has a teammate who just died taking a duel in B main, and he has a teammate who is pushing mid solo right now. His options are basically he can either move quickly to try to trade the Killjoy out, or he can go mid and help his Reyna. These are pretty much his only two options to give himself a role right now in the round, because currently what he is doing is nothing. He watched his teammate die, and then he's probably about to watch another teammate die in mid. Now, you'll notice eventually his team decides to book it onto B site, and Kirby tries to catch up with them, but even then he seems to have forgotten what Jaden just mentioned, which is it's really important as a support, you're holding and clearing the angles that your entries don't. So if your Omen is going to TP back site, Kirby can't possibly follow him. But what he can do is he can swing the right side of pillar, looking to clean up anything that the Omen may have missed. We actually talked about something very similar in our first episode of Radiant Earpiece with Sammy. This is when we talked about holding things for your teammates. It's actually something that's really hard to train because it takes constantly being aware of what everyone on your team is doing and how you can help them. That takes game sense, obviously, which takes time to build up. But like I said, just try to always think about what is my job, and if you don't have one, try to find one. If your Omen is swinging back sight and you're aiming back sight, you currently don't really have a job, because your Omen is going to take first contact and you can't possibly help him in that gunfight. So instead, it's better to look to hold a different angle to help your team cover their bases. And although Kirby does have this tendency to hang back a lot, I want to show you a very similar round that turned out completely differently, because rather than playing back and not doing much, Kirby found himself a job. Check out how differently this round actually plays out.
Be prepared for this fight. Nice. Yep. I want you to start running. Good ult. You could even
One health.
just try to clear out as much as you can. Good. You can knife up into heaven to just get information. Then your team is just running in. Yeah.
Oh,
Perfect. Good job.
Do you guys see how confident Kirby was in this round? Sure, part of it was that he was ulting and he had a free life, but this is what I want you to play like all of the time. Going back through the round, he knew the Jet peeks B main every single round, so he pre-fired it, and although he didn't get the kill himself, his teammates were there to help him and they got the opening pick. Then, immediately after, he pops his ultimate and literally just runs into sight. Now, this brings up another huge problem in Kirby's play, which is that he didn't really use his util as much as he should have, and we'll talk about that in the next round, but I very much want you to look at these last two rounds and how they played out so entirely differently, just because of how Kirby chose to position in the round. In the winning round, Kirby took initiative by taking an early duel with his teammates and then immediately capitalized on it by ulting onto sight without hesitating at all. And in the other round, he sort of walked around thinking, should I help Jed or Reyna, or do I push B main? What do I do? Let this round stand as how big of a difference a bit of confidence can make in a round. I want Kirby to play like this all of the time. Sort of. And that brings us to something that we need to talk about, which is utility usage. So this play worked out fine this time, and honestly, in silver matches, just playing with confidence is going to make a world of difference, because confidence is a massive factor in the game. However, there is such a thing as overconfidence, and pushing onto sight without using any flashes is oftentimes a little overconfident. That being said, I do know how it can feel kind of awkward to throw KO flashes sometimes, and I think a lot of that just comes down to not thinking of yourself as a support agent first. And this is what I tried to remind Kirby later in the game, that oftentimes it's better to not think about taking gunfights, but rather to think about how to make it easier for your teammates to take gunfights. Take a listen to the play I described to Kirby during his defensive half. Another thing that I think would really help you, like an agent like KO, is just try to remember that you're a support agent. So it's like a lot of what you're going to be doing is just being like having a flash in your hand ready for when your teammate wants to take a duel. So it's like, your Killjoy kind of had a crossfire with you right there. It wouldn't have worked out because you got walled anyway. But it's like, I would love to see you have like a flash in your hand ready for her contact, and then you throw it out of like vents or something.
right. Okay.
So like, you can run straight through vents right now. You're just taking a fight. And yeah, like right now.
Oh, nice
It was
try.
the right idea.
Yeah.
You can also just right hand that into the door frame so your Killjoy doesn't have to look away from it. Now, obviously this play didn't look like it went too well for Kirby, but it was the right idea. The logic behind this play is that Killjoy's turret is going to take first contact, and then immediately when that happens, Kirby should throw a flash and blind any players in the middle, which he could then swing off of. And the reason it didn't work in this scenario is because rather than underhanding his flash into the doorway, he threw the flash directly in front of the Killjoy's line of sight. But he, for example, places the flash in a spot where it wouldn't blind her. This is how you create plays where you pick up 2, sometimes 3 kills. It's about having the awareness of when your teammate is going to take a duel and how you can make that duel more favorable for them. This is what a flash agent does best, and like I was telling Kirby here, I really encourage you to, if you're playing an agent like KO, Breach, or Skye, try to remember that a well-timed flash is oftentimes way better than just taking a gunfight. We're going to finish this off by showcasing one more round that sort of brings all of these things together though, and although there are still things worth commenting on in this round, I just wanted to showcase some of the adjustments Kirby made throughout the game.
Nice, good kill. Could probably sit in vents here.
You still have a kill. Okay, never mind.
You could start pushing up a little bit.
One could be in this smoke.
Yeah, be careful of the smoke.
Spike planted.
Watch it on B. You can start catching up with your teammates here.
So you have 2 flashes right now?
You have a flash and a 9.
Should run.
Should probably get out. Probably get out. But you did get it to half. You have still one more flash.
Remaining.
Nice. Last one is B main. Good job.
Oh.
Big clutch.
She took the other way. That was really
Yeah.
good. You getting it a half? That was.
The main thing I want to point out is that Kirby used all of his utility, which was something that I loved. He used both of his flashes, his molly, and his knife, which there are definitely times when players are using their util a little bit too much, but it's actually my personal belief that it's better for you to use your util too much than not enough, because it's going to be a lot easier for you to dial back on your util usage once you've learned how to actually use it than it is to learn how to use it in the first place. And you'll notice how much value he actually gets off of his molly initially. He literally causes the Sage to swing out as well as burns the enemy Jet's dash, which very well could have won him the round. Say this Jet has her dash later in the round when Kirby is trying to retreat. Maybe she catches him off guard. Another thing worth mentioning is that his molly clears out all of back sight, which makes it so he can focus all of his attention onto Pillar, which is pivotal for his team winning this round. And although his flashes were a bit sloppy in the round, I was mostly happy that he even used them. And you'll actually notice after he dies the value that he got out of his utility. He actually got value out of pretty much all of his abilities, which is absolutely awesome. And the other thing I just want to give praise to is his crispy crosshair placement on this Jet kill. This was pretty sweet. I think I jumped out of my chair when I actually saw this. Overall though, I think this episode came along pretty well, and Kirby absolutely still needs to learn how to follow up his teammates a little bit more actively, as well as use his utility a bit more. But for a silver player, I think he's starting to get a good sense of the things that he should work on, and that's what's important. And by all means, if any of you relate to the issues that we talked about today, feel free to leave it in the comments below what your experience is. We would love to hear it. As always though, remember, if you want to see the full VOD with all of the commentary as well as the post-match discussion that we have with Kirby, that is all available on the website, so be sure to check that out in the description below. Along with this, we also have so many more VOD reviews coming out from the viewers that submitted on the Discord, so stay tuned for that. And that's pretty much going to do it for me today. As always, my name is King, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.